Hey guys, Roland here with Myriad Services and welcome back to our second episode. Today we've got an exciting topic we want to cover. So we're going to be talking about AR, VR, XR and how it's been utilized in the market today. So especially in the military and the mining and the manufacturing sector as well. I have an exciting person I want to bring onto the show. His name is James Milne. He is the founder of Myriad Technology. Wealth of knowledge, experience and information. So very excited to have him on the show today. So look, without further ado, let's get into it. Welcome to the show, James. Very excited to have you on board. So to kick things started, generally I like to do a bit of an introduction. So a bit of who you are, what you do, and how you got into this whole game. So over to you.
How far do you want to go back, man?
Oh, geez, I don't know. We only have an hour, according to Chris.
Well, then, okay, let me start at the beginning.
All right, so.
I guess the bit that's relevant is I kind of started Myriad Technologies back in 2003.
Yeah.
Already been in the IT industry for a number of years before that.
Yeah.
Did a tour of duty over in America.
Okay.
That probably didn't sound good. That's why I cringed. And when I came back to Australia, had seen some amazing stuff in the US.
Yeah.
And when I came back to Australia, kind of started Myriad Technologies, and we very rapidly started growing, multiplying numbers.
Yeah.
And I guess that's how we got here today.
Yeah, fair enough. So you started Myriad Tech with like Microsoft SharePoint in mind. That was the base behind it.
Coming back to Australia, I pretty much knew that definitely Brisbane is a very strong Microsoft shop.
Right. Okay.
So that was a pretty safe bet.
Yeah.
And I was kind of lucky. I bumped into some old colleagues and mentioned that I'd been doing stuff with portals and stuff.
Okay. Right.
And they rang me up 2 weeks later and said, "Do you want a SharePoint 2003 gig?" And I'm like, "Don't know what it is." Hadn't even Googled it at that stage. And they went, "That's okay. You know what a portal is. You've got the gig."
Yeah.
So I got paid to go out and work with a customer on installing the beta version of SharePoint 2003.
Yeah.
And that's when I started realizing, back then it was one of the very few content management systems we had for Microsoft or Microsoft ecosystem. So just started doing projects in that, and that's how we evolved Myriad Technologies in the early days.
Yeah. And is it safe to say that you also do the training manuals for Microsoft?
That was one of the necessities. Like we were just talking about before the show. You give a customer some technology, and their first question is, "Can you show me how to use it? Can you train me?"
Yeah.
And so, way back then we had no manuals or anything. Lots of technical stuff, but that wasn't what the business users were looking for. So I just started putting slides together, and before I knew it, the slides evolved into manuals. And we now do the online training environments and all that sort of fun stuff in Azure. That was just something that evolved out of customer requirements.
Fair enough. Yeah, you got to listen to the customers, I guess.
Yeah, give them what they need.
Well, look, obviously, today's podcast is about AR, VR, and XR.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, there'll be a few people out there going, "What the heck is this? How did it all evolve?" I must say, I'm actually quite excited with the whole technology that's currently hitting the market. Now, how did you get involved in this? Like, how did you get involved in the whole? I know that we talk about the Oculus Quest and the games that are currently available. I think you've brought in the Halo is it Hololens or Hololens?
We've got the Gen 1 Hololens, and we've got the first Gen Oculus VR headset.
Yeah.
So
how'd you get into this?
well, before we dive into how, let's unpack what it is, because there's a lot of confusion around.
Yeah.
And I noticed you're reaming off all of them, and considering we only have an hour for the show.
I know. It's an exciting topic, but we do have to cramp it in.
So let's start with the basics, I guess. VR has probably been around for the longest time, as in it's virtual reality.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some fantastic movies out there like Lawnmower Man and stuff like that, where, being able to immerse yourself in a different environment and feel like you're actually in that environment is what a lot of people probably associate with what virtual reality is.
Yeah.
In the last couple of years, we've been seeing augmented reality or AR, and augmented reality is being able to take that computer generated information or imagery and lay that over the top of what you're seeing here. So rather than you being immersed in another environment, it's taking your current environment and overlaying information.
Right.
We would have seen that in all the Mission Impossible movies where something pops up next to somebody's head because they're wearing magic glasses and all that sort of stuff. We're not quite at the magic glasses stage yet, enough. But the headsets are getting a lot better.
Yeah.
And then we kind of group all of that technology, augmented reality and virtual reality, under the banner of extended reality or XR. Yeah. So you can basically say XR and basically mean both of those streams of technology.
Right.
But to be honest, we're starting to see these technologies start to merge.
Yeah.
One of the really interesting things is we're starting to see, using the two examples that we have here, one's a virtual reality headset and the other one's an augmented reality headset. But it's really interesting. The Oculus guys have started to figure out that they've got little cameras on the outside that they can actually bring the reality into your VR experience.
Right. Okay.
So this gen is black and white and a little bit shaky.
Yeah.
But I think what we're starting to see is the two technology factors start to merge into one. So it'll be interesting if somebody does something like a hybrid headset at some stage.
Right. So what do you mean by, give me an example of how you see the hybrid looking like,
well, just at some stage, I think the lines will blur.
Yeah.
And and I guess this is starting to touch on the whole mesh conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. We do actually have to, I want to talk about that.
Yeah, we're going to get to it.
Yeah. But jumping the gun a bit.
but it's, I think at the moment we're still, the technology is still maturing. You're asking me the question of how did I get into this?
Yes.
It'll be interesting to see if any of the audience actually know what an Atari Jaguar is.
You're gonna have to tell me.
So it was a pretty good game console back in the, I think it was 80s or 90s, and a mate of mine and myself were looking at the Atari Jaguars, and Atari around the same time started to release a VR headset.
Is that the one where it's like black and red? Like the actual visuals were black and red? And
we never saw one in reality.
Okay. Yeah.
They were $10,000.
Oh, okay.
We were looking at buying one and bringing it into Australia.
Yeah.
They kind of looked like something out of an Alien movie.
Okay.
It was a very large helmet.
Right.
And the technology was just, cables everywhere.
Yeah.
For those people who are old enough to remember the penny arcades like Time Zone and stuff like that, there was something that came out that was Beach Command or something.
Yeah.
It was one of the first VR games where you could, basically the helmet was that big, it was suspended on a bracket. So that was an arcade game. That came out after the Atari headset that we were looking at. But so that's what I mean. I've always been interested in the concept, but always been watching the technology evolve. And I think now is probably the time where it's actually worth it, because like even the iteration before the Oculus still needed room sensors and things like that.
Yes.
Now I think it's a great time because I think the technology is mature.
Yes.
The Oculus is a great example. I was able to walk into a customer, and like I did tonight, I can walk in, I can put it down on the table, no cables, no room sensors. I don't even need a PC to go with it.
Which is really good.
That's what I mean. So the headset's a little bit, it's still heavy. Yeah. It's not comfortable. I wouldn't want to work in it 24/7.
Yeah.
But I think the technology, at least in the VR space, is definitely gotten to the point where it's now something that is definitely something that businesses should be looking at.
Yeah, yeah.
And I guess to bring it back to the mining industry, there's plenty of other applications in other businesses, but there's huge potential for training.
Yeah.
You were talking about digital twins earlier.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So there's definitely a lot of room, especially in the resource industry, and obviously, especially around the whole training side aspect of it, or maybe a bit of a demoing, for clients and things like that. So obviously, you don't want to be moving big, machineries just to take to a client side and say, hey, listen, this is what we actually do. It takes you like a day and a bit to just pack things up, and transport is just a bit of a mission. So how great would it be to just bring a headset, maybe two, I don't know, and just take it to a client side and say, hey, this is the the solution, the hardware that we actually are promoting, and do a bit of a walk around. So
that's definitely possible.
Yeah.
So one of the things I've prototyped for another customer at the moment is something equivalent to an induction video.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, that's going to be another thing.
Yeah.
Think about how much time you could save. Whether you're going out to a mine site or going on a large vessel or something like that.
Yeah.
I remember some of the trips I've done, you waste at least 45 minutes or an hour or even longer, depending on how big the site is, to do the induction video.
Yeah.
Imagine being able to don a headset in head office before you leave.
So people are actually ready. So when they actually land on the actual site, they know exactly where everything is and how all the layouts are.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you're talking about being able to consume videos.
Yeah.
You can do 3D videos. So you were talking earlier about the F1 video that you're watching.
Yeah.
That was one of the first videos I loaded up in the headset.
Oh, okay.
And being able to sit in the F1 cockpit.
Right. And then you see how everything...
you're literally looking around and you're seeing what the team's doing.
Wow. Jeez.
So you feel like you're there.
Yeah.
So you could do a site induction.
Yeah.
Show people where they can walk, where they shouldn't walk.
Danger zones and
what the equipment looks like when you're up close and personal.
Yeah.
Rather than waiting until they're on site in danger, you could actually be doing that all completely virtually.
Yeah. Yeah.
And create that muscle memory, so when they get on site, they feel like they've been there and done that.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, that's obviously the virtual or the VR side of things for I guess you could say then that and how it would look in the resource industry. But I think it actually is quite applicable for a lot of industries, the health and manufacturing and whatnot. But what about the AR side of things, or maybe the XR side of things? How do you see it playing in those industries?
In the AR space, we've still... So being a trainer at heart, I always see training first.
Yes. Very
so AR also has some amazing applicable AR applications. So I don't know if you've played with the headset, but being able to look at a piece of machine. Oh, you have played with it?
I played with your Oculus, but not the Hololens.
Yeah.
But I guess I've seen the introduction videos on how they actually work.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I really picked up and I thought was really good is, especially in the mining and maintenance sector kind of things, where you might have the guy on the ground.
Yep.
All right. He's looking at a particular, say,
piece of equipment.
Yep. And he gets stuck, or he or she gets stuck.
Yep.
And instead of having to bring in a specialist from, say, Germany or wherever it may be, they could just dial that person in, and then that person in Germany will be going, no. They can see exactly what that person's doing, and then run them through the whole lot. So,
and it's the market's gotten to the point now where, what you're talking about is the remote communications, being able to dial an expert in.
Yeah.
But there are packages out there that will also allow you to create AR tutorials on how to field strip a piece of equipment or how to shut it down. So think about all those plant shutdowns where you could be walking around with your AR headset on, and you might never have seen this piece of equipment before, or you might only shut it down once a year or something like that.
Yeah.
You could actually watch an AR tutorial that recognizes the piece of equipment, overlays video, text, speech, tutorials over the top of that to actually walk you through the process of starting down or shutting or field stripping that piece of equipment. Yeah. And you've never seen it before.
It kind of reminds that when you said that, it just, what came to my mind straight away was Matrix.
Yeah, exactly.
When Neil was like, "Oh, how do you fly this?" And and next minute he's just like, "Oh, no." So
I know how to do karate.
Yeah,
exactly. So that's where we're at. Is you don't, think about the mining industry. One of the big things that I've had a couple of customers say to me is especially with the churn in the market, with older miners leaving the industry, traditionally capturing knowledge, how have we done it?
Yes. You pass it on or through apprenticeship or what?
Well, yeah. Do we have time to do that?
Not these days, I don't think.
Not these days.
No.
So how do we capture that knowledge in a way that we can pass that on to the younger generation? Now, the younger generation are going to be much more open to picking up a headset.
Yeah, and learning it that way.
And bringing it back to training, one of the things I love is when we're doing this sort of tech, if I handed you a PlayStation controller or a Nintendo controller, how much time do I need to train you on that?
Bugger all.
You pick it up.
I'll just go, this is a PlayStation. Or this is an Xbox, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, and everything's just...
We'd probably have to deal with more of the connotations of, oh my God, you're going to give me a Nintendo controller for this thing? I want a PlayStation 5 controller.
Xbox player.
Exactly. Exactly. You'll get into the religious wars of, oh my God, it's got to be an Xbox or nothing. And so imagine, you've got this new phase of, or new generation of workforce coming through who are tech savvy. Yeah. We don't have to train them on left click or right click.
Yeah, exactly.
It's here's a controller, here's a headset, go forth and consume. Yeah. And they're going to naturally go off and play with the technology. So you're not going to have to force them to do it.
No, that's fair enough because they're already interacting like you said, so it's going to come naturally to them, and I guess it's consumed in the way that they would consume gaming.
And just in time. Yeah. I need to shut this piece of equipment down. So they're not going to go and look for the manual. No. I think the days of going into an office and seeing 15 big white binders above a desk are gone. That's right,
because it's all going to be right there visually.
Why can't it be like that?
And then scroll through just like in the Matrix. Yep. It's just like, all right, I want to learn Taekwondo. Yep. So in this case, I want to learn how to shut this piece of machinery down.
And do you want that as text? Would you like that as audio? Or would you like that as a video?
Step-by-step one.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, and then you start putting the digital twin conversation into it as well. Yeah. So I've played with some really good applications on the HoloLens where they can you can look at the 3D object sitting in your lap. Yeah. And then the HoloLens can actually bring in a digital twin of that object. Right. And start pointing to components of that object while you're playing with the physical twin.
So we're kind of like mixing a bit of a, the Iron Man scene as well, where he's manipulating the actual item itself. But,
But you're talking about the Matrix, being able to see a 3D object that's not there. And the second gen just gets even better, being able to pick up those 3D models and pass them to each other. Yeah. So this is where, I know you've talked about collaboration in the past, but being able to collaborate with 3D objects. Yes. So you have a headset, I have a headset.
And we see the same thing and manipulating
same space.
Do we actually have to be in the same room? Or is there something that, if you've got a good connection, it could be anywhere?
We've got the NBN now, mate. All problems are solved. NBN. We can...
Don't give me that one. Don't get started with NBN, all right?
No, but you've touched on a really good point. This is where the technology is evolving. Yeah. We're at that point where the headsets are, you've got a plethora of headsets to choose from. So, one of them's going to win out at some stage, or a couple of them will win the market over. Yeah. But we're also starting to see the concept of 3D spaces is really starting to, everybody's got a space. So you were using the analogy earlier of being able to call an expert to the coal face. Yeah. We're starting to see the technology merge together. Right. So not just bring an expert to the edge to help me solve a problem. Yeah. Because in that scenario, you the person wearing the headset, like the real wear headsets that you guys were talking about earlier. Yeah. Whoever's wearing the headset becomes the arms and the legs of the operator. Yes. But they're now starting to merge VR with robotics.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So imagine, and this is Matrix style technology. Imagine you put a headset on and you look down and you see these arms, but their arms are robotic. Yeah. So they're calling that teleoperating.
Is that something that... I might be, out of line or maybe jumping the gun. Is that something that the militaries are like taking advantage of? Or
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, anything that's going to allow you to remotely operate a pair of hands, especially in a volatile, dangerous environment, whether we're talking about military applications or whether we're talking about mining applications. Imagine being able to have remote robotic arms.
Yes.
So now you don't even have to put the headset wearer in harm's way.
Yes.
And there's some really interesting YouTube videos that demonstrate some of the technology, and I'm not talking about military grade technology. We're talking about consumer grade technology here. Yeah. So there's a really interesting robot out of Europe called Ricci, ironically,
right?
And it's still in beta, but it's not hideously expensive.
Yeah,
but it is using consumer grade headsets to remotely control arms. And at the moment, they're just doing kitschy stuff like making sandwiches or cooking remotely, just to prove the point that, you can get a subject matter expert literally robotically into your kitchen doing a task for you.
Get Gordon to cook for us.
I don't know how well that's going to end up. I don't know what happens when he throws the robot halfway across the room.
Oh, sheesh. So that particular application that you're talking about, I was just thinking about for, one of the, one of my clients in the maintenance sector. If, obviously there'll be a certain danger aspects where, they won't want to send somebody in, but at the same time, the expert could be somewhere off site completely. They could actually go in and instead of the physical person going in there and actually exploring it or de-escalating whatever the issue might be. More of a safer environment. Yeah.
And now you're starting to touch on this might show my age. Remember when Google and Yahoo and Lycos and Ask Jeeves, depending on who you were, you had your own preferred search engine.
Yes.
And then Metapile came along and they started using meta search engines. We're starting to get to that stage with VR.
Okay.
So this is where you start to see products like Microsoft Mesh.
Yes.
So everybody is off creating AR experiences or VR experiences.
Yeah.
And this is where Microsoft Mesh comes into play, where they're trying to solve, it's basically the single sign-on problem again.
Right.
Okay, so depending on the headset that I have and the headset that you have and the 3D or AR environments that you go into, there's all these different ecosystems. Right. So Microsoft's now starting to look at it in a way of, we recognize that working virtually, whether it's AR or VR, how do we start to mesh them together in a way that, you could be off in VR land playing a computer game. Yeah. And then I can tap you, I can reach out into the network and you're my subject matter expert. Yeah. And I can now tap you and say, Rowan, can you come over and have a look at this problem I've got? Right. And then through AR, you could then actually be seeing what I'm seeing. Right. And we can start doing those collaborative processes together. Right. But allowing people to pop in and pop out of these different virtual spaces. Right. Right. So that's going to be very exciting to see over the next 12 months. I reckon. What Microsoft's going to do in that space.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Geez. That is actually quite exciting, to be honest. Yeah. Wow. So I'm just looking at it from my, I guess, the Microsoft Teams aspect. But we're just taking it to the next level where we're virtually looking at projects together rather than just on a screen. It could be, on the screen. Oh, Chris is going to hate me for that one. Sorry, Chris. But instead of looking on the screen, you're actually immersed in whatever the activity or the project is. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Okay.
So a lot of this technology is here now. Yeah. The immersive websites. Yeah. If you have a headset, you can basically be immersing yourself in those websites and consuming the environments in 3D. So yeah, it's here. Yeah. It's coming. Yeah. I think with the new way of working, to use the current cliche. Yeah. I think people are more open to working through Teams. Yes. And remotely. Yes. And I think things like Mesh and some of the digital twin technologies that we're finding in Azure are really going to start to open up these applications and allow us to explore how to work differently in these new environments.
Yeah. Yeah. So, would you say that we're more connected because of it?
We're definitely more connected.
Yeah. Way more connected. So no excuse.
But it's going to be interesting. I mean, just last week I was at the airport, and it's a weird feeling going back to the airport.
Yeah.
It's.
Is it? What's the weird feeling? Is it the mask wearing or?
The mask is slightly uncomfortable, but it's just that, we've been locked up at home. We've been, doing Teams meetings, so we're used to only interacting with people in 2D. On a 9x9 screen.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden you've got people jostling and bustling, and you're literally sitting next to people on a flight.
Yes.
So I think that's been the catalyst that's really opened up a lot of people. I mean, you would have seen the adoption of Teams.
Yes, very quick.
Yeah.
Very quick.
Yeah.
And then the whole, AR, VR, and XR is just going to take it to the next level.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's going to be the next version of Teams.
Yes. I can see that,
Exactly.
So that's where isn't it correct me if I'm wrong, RealWear, do they not utilize Teams to
RealWear is a great product. It's already integrated with Teams.
Yes.
So for customers that are already in the Microsoft Teams ecosystem, it's a no-brainer for doing that remote expert, being able to bring them to the edge.
Yeah.
Right. So that technology is here now. So that's definitely something you could adopt or trial today. Yeah.
So I guess in terms of HoloLens versus the RealWear, what's the key difference apart from?
Well, how do you want to tackle that one? I mean, the RealWear. So, I mean, HoloLens is fantastic technology, but that's the next gen.
Right.
Because it's augmented reality. So it's taking your current reality and overlaying video content, 3D video content on top of it.
Right. And RealWear doesn't do that at the moment?
RealWear is more of a... This is where we take it down a notch.
Right.
It's not really a VR
okay. So
appliance.
That's where I got my wires crossed, I guess.
So this is where I guess when we're talking about the difference between AR and VR, we kind of glossed over the actual hardware. A lot of these pieces of hardware are actually now referred to as HMDs.
Okay.
Head-mounted displays.
Okay.
So, without unpacking the Oculus and the HoloLens, the RealWear devices you're talking about are literally very small screens that appear next to your eye.
Like Google Glass?
Yeah, Google Glass was another head-mounted display.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but the nice thing, the big difference between Google Glass and RealWear is, besides the fact that Google Glass got taken off the market, RealWear actually has a suite of applications already running on it. So if you go down the Glass pathway, you will be building your own apps. Good luck with that. Let me know how that works out.
Yeah, no.
If you're looking for stuff to do. But at least now, if you bought the RealWear device, yes, it comes with a suite of apps. It has electronic forms and things like that already available on the device.
Yeah.
But having Teams integration, the scenario you were talking about earlier, being able to reach out into the network of experts within your organization or even cross organizations and pull somebody in, and they can then see what you're seeing.
Right.
So that's one of the very first. And this is the problem: is they existed before the whole AR VR conversation, and really went for the phone a friend sort of support, and they've nailed it, and they're in market now. So that's definitely an option for somebody who's looking for that level of support at the edge of the network.
Right. So the next one that I just want to touch on is the mesh and the engineering. So how do you see it playing out in the engineering sector side of things? Engineering,
I think, is obviously going through the same challenges everybody else is going through. But the really interesting opportunity for engineering is, there's a suite of additional services inside Azure. Right. So I don't know if you've come across the Azure Digital Twin service. They've also got an Azure remote rendering service as well, so you can get all your models rendered in the cloud. Wow. There's tons of stuff in there that's just waiting to be tapped on.
Right.
And then opening up the scenarios of, probably not with the Gen 1, but with the Gen 2 HoloLens, the collaborative features of being able to take a 3D object and bring that into a collaborative space.
Right.
Now, you could be in Sydney and I can be in Townsville.
Yeah.
And we can be doing that over an internet connection.
Right.
And feeling like we're both in the same location.
Right.
So imagine, rather than having a Teams meeting,
yeah,
we could now actually be immersed. And this is where things are starting to blur with the whole AR, VR.
Yeah.
You know, you might be in a VR environment looking at the 3D model.
Right, yeah.
I could then join your session as an AR session. And I can still see the model projected into my reality.
Yes.
And this is where it gets really exciting, is they're 3D models that can be manipulated.
Yes.
You could be, you know, pointing to a design fault that you found and gone, you know, that bolt's in the wrong place.
Yeah.
And I can say, oh, you know, use a different size bolt.
Yeah, exactly.
Imagine trying to have that conversation over email.
No, that's right. Or email or phone call. Like, hey, what are you seeing? Oh,
exactly.
I'm looking at
describe to me what you're seeing.
Oh, is it 20 mil? And then
it's a big complex 3D object with a million polygons in it. Yeah. Oh, okay. Can you send me a picture?
Yeah.
Being able to pull somebody into that environment and show them in real time.
Like actually show them, like, this is what I'm looking at, and expand and have a explosive view of the actual, you know, whether it be an engine block that you're looking at, you could
there's some really exciting 3D apps that, you know, when you're first exploring VR, they give you a whole bunch of apps, and one of the apps to play with is an engine block. Right, and being able to do a gesture and the whole thing comes apart.
Right.
It's like, wow, that's kind of cool. I never really understood how it all goes back together.
Yeah.
So it's giving you a new way of looking at objects in reality in any sort of environment and being able to play with it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So is it, look, I did a bit of research, obviously, right?
Oh, that's always good.
Believe it or not, I do some research. You know, I'm not just a pretty face, I guess. MR, mixed reality.
Yes.
So, what is that? Like, obviously, like XR, you know, extended reality, but then you've got AR, VR, and now MR, and then what is MR?
MR is another way of saying XR.
Right.
It's mixed reality is where they're now starting to recognize, and I guess this comes back to the story I was giving you about, you know, you might be off in a VR environment and I might be off in an AR environment.
Right.
So mixed reality is how do those different environments come together.
Right.
So what we're seeing, the amazing thing is what we're seeing in definitely in the VR space, there's tons of collaboration stuff.
Yeah.
The really scary stuff is, I don't know if you're old enough to remember Second Life and when people started talking about virtual real estate and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
That's becoming a thing again.
Right.
So there is a number of VR companies that are starting up that are selling virtual campuses.
Okay.
So, you know, you could have the Myriad Technologies virtual campus and you can come and visit us through your virtual headset.
It's I see how it works. You know how well, it's not really virtual at the moment, but you could do the whole, you know, walk through houses at the moment. But in this case,
product demos, use case scenarios, all of that can be done in virtual. And like you were talking about earlier, you know, how do we do it now? We pack up a whole bunch of kit, we fly it to the other side of the planet, we set it up in a remote location and walk somebody through it. And if it's the wrong color or the wrong size, or we misjudged their use case, you know, that's an expensive exercise.
Right.
But I've been looking at a couple of virtual showrooms where I can bring 3D objects in and we can, you know, imagine if you're a large manufacturing company or a mining industry and you're rolling out new equipment.
Yeah.
Imagine being able to give people a walkthrough of this is the new fleet of trucks that we're rolling out.
Yeah.
We didn't have to ship any of them.
No.
They're all virtual.
Yeah. And
imagine that headset in a post pack.
Yeah. Yeah. And then they can take an actual virtual, you know, tour of the actual device itself. One thing I was just thinking about is, in the product demo, I guess, you could place the actual item that they might, like, it could be a machinery or whatever it may be, or, they can physically place it in the actual workshop itself and see where it could actually fit.
Yeah.
Rather than go, I think I might put it over there. What do you think? I'm like, well, why don't we just put it over there and see what it looks like?
Well, that is one of the applications on the HoloLens.
Yeah.
A couple of the really early demos. So we are talking about the Gen 1 technology as being able to look at a factory floor,
right,
and bring in objects and actually place them in the environment.
IKEA.
Yes.
Don't they do that?
They've got a virtual app.
That's right. Yep. So you can actually see what the furniture looks like in your house.
Yep.
Oh, very nice. Very nice.
There's also some really killer app, because I know you guys do a lot of work with networking and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Now, hopefully I get the company name right.
Right.
I think it's something like Unify, or so Unify routers now are using augmented reality.
Oh, okay.
So you get your little app on the phone.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've ever lived the dream of walking around to somebody's data riser and opening the data riser and seeing all the blue cables as spaghetti coming out and trying to figure out what port goes where.
Yeah. So
this is where the augmented reality is starting to merge together the network management software.
Right.
So you hold your phone up and you look at the ports through your phone.
Right. Okay.
And it will actually start to show you the icons of what device is on the end of each port with the host names.
Wow.
So that's here now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, the need to document your network topology is now being built into the hardware.
Yeah.
And being able to basically use an augmented reality. And that's in 2D mode. That's just using your phone.
Yeah.
Imagine what would happen if we had the augmented reality version of a HoloLens.
So this could actually work quite well with, maintenance companies where they no longer have to carry, like you said, like a ring binder. Or, oh, shoot, client, who's this client? They could actually just look it up and go, client is ABC.
Yep.
Section is 2B, whatever. And I'm looking at item XX.
Yeah.
And then it'll just bring up the history, what's happened.
So most of the customers I've worked with when it comes to networking, you're lucky if you get a Visio diagram.
Right.
But imagine how easy it is for me to disconnect and reconnect some of those devices, and now your Visio diagram's out of date.
Yeah. Wow.
And it's another step for me to go back to my desk, update the Visio diagram, republish it where people might find it.
Yeah.
But having the network be able to present its telemetry data and connectivity data up through AR, I think that's a big game changer. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So there is actually a lot of applications out there, isn't there? Wow.
Yeah. We should post the links in the show notes.
Yeah.
So if anyone's interested in playing with any of the
more work for
those
Chris.
Technologies. 5-minute job.
No, to be honest, that makes sense. Yeah. A few of our viewers, if they're interested, they can actually go and have a look at it.
Yeah. It's definitely a game changer.
Yeah. There's the applications not just in the the mining or the engineering sector, in-health sector as well, and I think we touched on military as well. It could actually expand quite rapidly. So.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, it's just the cost at the moment, isn't it? It's just something like that is quite expensive for a HoloLens.
Well, this is why I think we're seeing at the moment. So yes, 100% agree with you. The HoloLens, fantastic products, but not cheap.
Yes.
So your HoloLens Gen 1 and Gen 2, I think it's still going to be an enterprise application. Yeah. But the exciting thing for me is at the moment, we're seeing, looking at the Oculus. I mean, that's the first gen. So that's now a generation old, and they're now talking about pushing out the third gen.
Okay. So what does the third gen look like?
We haven't seen the third gen yet. That's all rumors and supposition at the moment. But imagine that device you're holding there.
Yeah.
When it was bought new, was probably about $500-$600.
Yeah, it's not bad.
That's not bad. That's not hideous
bad at all. Yeah.
And that's what I mean. A consumer would, definitely a gamer would buy that.
Yeah.
And that's now an old product. And I saw on their website the other day, they're now starting to push refurbed ones out for $200 or $300 US.
Right. Okay. Where do I get my hands on that?
Oculus.com.
Oculus.com.
But I mean, I was talking to a customer about, they sell prestige vehicles.
Yes.
And, obviously the big thing for them is pushing out a new fleet of products out to the dealers and all that sort of stuff. And going back to your challenge of, well, how do we ship the latest vehicles around the country to get all the dealers up to speed on it? You know, for a $300 headset, you can send them the headset. They can explore the new fleet of vehicles. They can watch the videos. They can immerse themselves in 3D videos. They can read all the fact sheets and all the spec sheets. And, you know, we haven't had to ship all the vehicles out to them or do a trade show. And the thing that got this customer pretty excited is they started to realize, well, if somebody's going to buy a prestige vehicle, a $300 headset is nothing in the big scheme of things. Right. That's a rounding error on if they do go ahead with it.
Yeah, exactly.
But you're a salesman. Yeah. You've now got an excuse to ring up the customer and go,
hey, you want to
do you want to buy the car or am I coming out to pick up the headset?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's very true.
You've got a callback reason.
That's right. Yeah. Well, again, it's cheaper to actually ship it out, I guess.
Yeah. And if you made a sale on that, keep the headset.
Yeah.
Your kids are exactly. It's definitely now a gift at that sort of those sorts of prices. But that's what I mean. There's customers out there that are starting to think about, how do we do business differently?
Yes.
We're all in the same place.
Yeah.
We all have limited ability to fly around.
Yeah.
But at least now people are thinking about how to work differently.
Yeah. And
we have a plethora of options available to us that give us the flexibility to try different things.
Yeah. So I guess in this case, things like COVID will probably be no limitation now. It's kind of like, oh, look, I can't come and see you. However, I'll ship out the VR headset. Yep. You could take a virtual tour. We can actually go into this tour together. I can point out, how the features work and just. You can do a bit of a Q&A just based on, what you're actually seeing.
Virtual showrooms.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
wow. Okay. Yep. So not necessarily having to have your clients come to your showroom. You can actually take the showroom to them and do the tour.
Yeah. And I'm aware you just came back from the RIN conference.
Yes.
Yeah. So Microsoft's actually, they've had for quite some time an amazing website called AltSpace VR.
Okay.
So this is starting to introduce the concept of virtual events.
Yeah.
So because we're all in lockdown, I can't leave the building or leave the house.
Yeah.
But being able to have virtual events.
Yeah.
Whether we're talking about company events or trade shows.
Yeah.
Imagine being able to go into a virtual trade show.
Right. And do an actual virtual walk around each booth.
Exactly.
Interact
so
like
it doesn't have to just be a single booth. It could be a virtual trade show.
Right. Geez.
And this is where we start to introduce the concepts of the different spaces. Yeah. You could come up to my booth and you might go, oh, I like the 3D objects or the use cases that you're demonstrating, but I want to do a private one-on-one. We could then launch into another private space. Yeah. Where you might see different objects. Yes. We could walk through different scenarios. Right. But then, our comms, our communication would just be one-on-one. Yeah. Or one or if you wanted to bring a couple of friends.
Yeah, exactly. So if I wanted to, say for example, I'm talking, let's just say you're my client, I'm showing you something and you're like, actually, I want to see if Bob wants to join this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, no worries. Just invite Bob.
And that's where the Microsoft Mesh starts to come in.
And so Bob could be anywhere in the world. Mm-hmm. And he could be wearing a AR headset or virtual and just see everything that we're currently interacting with.
And we've always got the lowest common denominator. We could drop back to 2D mode.
Yeah, exactly.
He might just have a web browser or Teams on his PC. Yeah, and he can now see the 3D environment, and you're getting excited and you're pointing at things and going, "Oh, look, Bobby, we've solved the problem of that annoying bolt.
That bolt,
we can move it to the left by 3 inches.
There's the problem, right?
And as long as he goes, you're fine with that, and you go, "Yep, I'm good with it." Yeah, he can still live in 2D world.
Right. So I guess it eliminates the we need to try it first. I'm like, well, we can try it now.
Well, that's the beautiful thing with 3D models and digital twins. Yeah. You've got a digital copy of a 3D object. You can do whatever you want with it.
Yeah. So I like what you said before. So do you want to buy it or did you want to just return the headset back?
Exactly. Well, for a while there, I was getting all excited about Google Cardboard, because imagine the applications of being able to do virtual training with. You've got an Android phone. I'll ship you, or you can print out the 3D the cardboard stencil and fold it up and make your own headset.
Yeah,
it's obviously not going to be as comfortable as a proper headset, but imagine being able to do that in third world countries. Or
that's right. Yeah. So wow, to be honest, I'm actually very excited. Yes, I will get the Oculus eventually. Okay, it is on my to-do list, and you definitely sold me on that one there. So look, how are we looking for time at the moment? We've got 5 minutes according to Chris. Look, honestly, is there anything else that you want to add that, like, in terms of future of, what you're currently seeing? Is there anything else that you want to add that's quite exciting that we should be looking into right now? Or is it more about watch the space and see how?
No, I think in the next 12 months there's going to be a huge surge.
Mm-hmm.
I think the market's right.
Yeah,
we need to adapt to working differently.
Yeah,
the technology. It's not perfect, but it's definitely workable.
Yeah.
I think for a lot of your customers, it's an ideal opportunity to start trying the technology.
Yes. Yeah.
That's what I mean. We've got customers that are starting to look at digital twins and trying to understand the use cases and the applications of it. And I mean, the headsets themselves, relatively low investment in hardware.
Well, look, that one there was under 1,000. So.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's under $1,000.
Yeah.
The current model I think is probably about $500.
Oh wow, there we go. So
in Aussie dollars once landed in Australia.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean. That's from an R&D perspective.
It's cheap.
That's not
actually. It's not that bad.
I won't talk about the Hololens and what we paid for the Gen 1.
Price tag on that. Wow.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. I think with the technology being affordable, with the current market, the need.
Yes.
And then some of the applications we're starting to see. And that's why I was really excited to start to see different technologies starting to merge together. And the robotics and VR coming together.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious where the 3D printing is going to take us.
I really want to touch on that, eh?
Have you heard about microfactories?
No, you're going to have to tell me now. All right, okay. I know we've got 5 minutes, but let's go.
So some of the universities are starting to work on microfactories where you can recycle things like phone handsets.
Okay.
And there's a lot of plastic in those handsets which they can break down and then use that as the input or the printing fiber for 3D printers.
Oh.
So probably not for you every day, but imagine being able to do emerging markets or third world countries, being able to drop a shipping container as a microfactory into one of those locations and, bring us your old e-waste, because that's the other problem we're grappling with.
Yeah. Generating a lot of it, eh?
Jeez. Yeah.
Because every year there's always, that's the problem with technology, is that it's so advanced and it's moving at a rapid pace that a phone that you got now is just useless a month later. Well, it's not useless, but something else.
There's always something shiny and new to buy.
So hence the reason why I haven't got the Oculus yet, because
you're very wise to do that.
But you went and jumped into it.
Well, for me, it was the technology is now at the point where I'm happy with it.
Yeah.
As in, I didn't have to rig up the lighthouses and the sensors and all that sort of stuff and have a dedicated PC.
Yeah.
So I was like, man, that's my entry point. That's where I'm happy to jump in.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean. That's just improving.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's just gonna forever improve. Cool. All right. I think that's pretty much it, really. Like, I know that you and I could probably have a chat and just go down that rabbit hole and just keep talking, but
maybe for the next show.
Yeah, for the next show we'll talk about something else. But thank you so much for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. A lot of information, and I'm sure our viewers will have more questions. So if you guys do have any questions, feel free to comment below. But thank you again, James.
Thanks for having me on.
Coming on.